Thank you guys for coming today. My name is Ricky. I'll be your mediator for the day. Either one of you guys have trouble finding this place today?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not from around here.
Sorry to hear that. And you?
I found it okay, but it would have been nice if the other party had been on time.
Understandable. Alright. Well, as far as my credentials go, I graduated from UIC. I've done several mediations just like this one. I would like to put a few guidelines in place so that we have a civil mediation here today. So one of the big things is respecting each other. That means no cursing at each other, no yelling at each other.
Have you taken notes?
No. It's a being I'd also like to ask that you don't speak out of turn. When it's one person's turn to speak, allow them to make their full statement before interrupting. Are there any other guidelines that you guys would like to add?
Be reasonable.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add? No?
I think that's good.
You're good right there? Alright. So, are both of you familiar with mediation and how that works?
No.
Not really.
Alright, so you guys have issues that need to be solved that we'd like to do in a as civil and just way as possible. We'd like to come out of this with a compromise between the two of you so that everybody leaves happy. This is not a win-lose situation here, it's a win-win, so that everybody's happy at the end of this. Our time limit for this session is going to be just over an hour. And after that, if we have not come to a resolution, then we will have to reschedule and have another session at some other point in time. With that, are we ready to get started?
No. Who's paying for this?
Well, since my rent just got raised, I'm not paying for it.
We can discuss payment at a later time. Other than that, do we have any other issues to get off before we start?
No?
Alright. Since you're bringing the dispute to the table, I'll let you go first with your opening statement.
Opening statements.
What you're wanting, why we're here.
Well, I've been... I'm sorry, what was that? You're already making comments and this just started. You're not supposed to interrupt.
Please stop interrupting, please.
So I've been living in this building for 2 years that he owns, and I don't know, all of a sudden, like, I started dating this girl and he just decides to raise the rent, which really isn't fair, because I've been living there for 2 years and paying the same rent, and all of a sudden, things don't go his way. He's just like, oh, give me more money for no reason.
So you're wanting your rent to be lower, is what you're asking for?
I would. And I'd like if he could stop being a jerk to my girlfriend when she comes over, because, I mean, I know he owns the building, but I do rent my own space.
Alright. Is that it? Anything else? So you'd like him to lower your rent as well as be a nicer person in general?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And now I move to you for your opening statements.
She is extremely unreasonable. Her rent went up because the cost of my living went up. I live a very expensive lifestyle. That money has to come from somewhere. She just needs to leave, honestly. I want to evict her and her disgusting girlfriend.
Could we keep the language to a civil level, please?
Yeah, wasn't respect one of the guidelines?
It's not a very respectful language.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, but I don't think I should be responsible for finding his Louboutin shoes and Hermes ties.
She doesn't do that solely. There's other tenants that pay for them as well.
And there was a point when he didn't want me to leave, so,
And when would this point be?
it was a little bit before I started dating this girl.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
Not particularly. I think he can tell you the details of that. But I think it's disingenuous for him to now claim that he just wants me to leave. Although I do believe that he wants the girlfriend to leave, but I don't think he wants me to leave the building. And again, I don't think that I should fund his expensive and elaborate lifestyle that he doesn't really need.
Well, it sounds like the other side is speculating as to what I think or want. I actually want both of them to leave now. She's unreasonable, she's loud, and I just want her to go. It'd be much easier if I had like an old person living in there who doesn't make any noise and pays their rent on time.
Alright, so what I'm hearing from both of you is you would like to keep the rent at the current level that it's at right now.
Yes.
You would preferably like her and her girlfriend to leave. And the reason you want your rent to stay is because your cost of living has gone up.
Yeah.
Alright, so can we go ahead and agree on an agenda as far as how we're gonna go about this today?
Sure.
Alright.
Because I'm not an unreasonable person.
So what would we like to talk about first? Any suggestions from either side?
Well, I feel like the rent is probably the overall
Rent's the biggest issue here.
issue.
Alright, so would you
I
like to talk
can't
about that
read
first?
the second part on mine.
Get rid of me?
Oh,
Do you
yes.
not know your own wishes?
I don't know what you wrote down.
Alright,
If anything, my rent should be lower because I have to deal with.
I
this
feel like
on
we
a
should
daily
just talk about
basis.
getting rid of her, because then that would solve everything.
Well, if you wanted to get rid of me, maybe we shouldn't have re-signed that lease a month ago.
Leases can be broken.
alright, so we're wanting to talk about living options as well as the rent. Those are the two kind of big issues here.
Sure.
And which one would you like to talk about first?
Well, the rent doesn't really matter if he wants to get rid of me, so maybe we should talk about why it is that he wants to get rid of me.
Alright, so we'll start with the living options and then move on to rent. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Alright. So first with living options. Why exactly would you like her to leave?
The reason that I want her to leave is because now she has this girlfriend living with her. This girlfriend's not on the lease, it's just supposed to be her. As well as they're very loud and disruptive. She's not supposed to have animals, and she definitely has 2 cats in there. And she's not supposed to. So she's just breaking all these rules, and it's just easier as she goes.
Alright, were you aware of the no pets rule?
I am, and I don't have pets. I did watch my sister's cats for a week, but they've been long gone now.
Alright. And as far as the girlfriend not being on the lease, is that also true?
Right, because I signed the lease before we started dating, but there's no provision in the lease that says that someone can't live with me.
Wow,
And quite
somebody's
frankly,
fast.
our activities are not noisy.
Alright.
So as a matter of fact, he occupies the room right next to us, And his activities are far noisier than any of ours. And that's what I have to deal with. So if there's any noise that he's hearing, it's probably just the TV that I have to turn up to cover his noise that I hear at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Well, would a viable option be for her to add her girlfriend to the lease, if you would like that?
And a cat problem, because she definitely has cats. Everybody on that floor can smell them.
I don't have cats, and my apartment smells like roses. I'm kind of OCD and a neat freak. I don't know why he wants to get rid of me, because I keep that apartment looking better than it did when I moved in there.
Nobody smells their own smell.
But on that note, I don't really want to have my girlfriend to the lease. I don't know how long she's going to be around.
Alright, fair enough. So, what are you suggesting? You're suggesting that she just leave altogether.
Correct.
And if she leaves altogether, aren't you losing out on that rent?
This area is a very affluent area. Everybody wants to live here. I would have no problem filling that unit.
Are there any other reasons you'd like her to leave besides her new relationship and her cats that are no longer there?
Allegedly.
The cats aren't there. You can come search the apartment yourself. I'm not a huge fan of cats, so I watched them for my sister for a week. She's going through a rough time, but they're definitely not my cats.
So if she has no more cats, then is her new relationship your only issue?
Well, if she has no cats, then my next issue is why her apartment smells so bad if there's no cats there.
Do you frequently visit her apartment?
Only when she's not there.
I'm sorry, if he's saying that he searches my apartment when I'm not there, we've got a whole new set of issues.
And why exactly do you go to her apartment when she's not there?
To look for the source of that god-awful smell.
So are you saying that the smell, you can smell that smell all the way through the rest of the building?
Yes.
Let's see.
It's a one-bedroom apartment. There's nothing to find. If he searched it multiple times and hasn't found the source of that smell, then it sounds like he's just making it up.
And you have no,
There's other complaints from other tenants as well.
Hearsay.
I actually brought a signed document here from all the other tenants.
I don't see any
Complaining.
signatures on the document.
complaining about what? The smell of the
The
apartment?
smell, yes. It's making the entire building smell.
And you're sure that the source is her apartment?
Yes, you walk by her apartment and it gets much worse.
What he's failing to tell you is that the people, he lives on one side of me. People on the other side of me, they run like their own little zoo. I wasn't going to tell him about it because, quite frankly, they're a lot nicer than he is. But since we're here, they have like, you know, a couple of iguanas, parakeet, and I think they have like 3 cats. So I think that where he thinks the smell is coming from isn't quite accurate.
So is it possible that the smell could be coming from a different apartment?
No, like I said before, you walk by her specific apartment and it smells really bad. And then it gets into the ventilation in the entire building, and the entire building smells. It's disgusting.
I guarantee you it's the room next to me. And if he wasn't so cheap and didn't have paper thin walls and a horrible ventilation system, it probably wouldn't spread through the building the way it does.
Now, even with the smell throughout the building, is there any way to counteract that smell throughout the building with some
I
sort
mean,
of
we
air
can send
freshener?
a hazmat team in there.
Maybe he should get rid of the people next door to me that are actually creating the smell, instead of just making up fake reasons to get me evicted.
Oh, so she's suggesting I just start kicking everybody out of the building.
No, not everybody, just the people who he has an issue with.
I'm working on that.
I think his feelings are a little misplaced.
And why do you say that?
Because it's not me creating the smell, it's the people next door, but he needs reasons to get rid of me because clearly he doesn't want me in that building.
And why do you feel that he doesn't want you in there?
Probably because he has an issue with my girlfriend. I mean, he's never really been okay with that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Any comment on?
I'm a very conservative Christian and I don't agree with that lifestyle.
Now, you not agreeing with that lifestyle, is that necessarily a right to evict this woman from your?
No, I would agree
building?
that it's not a very good reason. However, I have all of these other reasons why I want to evict her.
I've only heard one reason, and that's the smell that's not even coming from my apartment. He doesn't have all these other reasons to evict me. He just needs to come up with reasons and fabricate reasons to evict me, so that it doesn't look so bad on him that he's actually evicting me for his extremely conservative and unreasonable views.
Well, if we could go back to my issues with her, since she seems to have forgotten, her loudness, she has music on at 2 a.m., she has loud parties all the time, and her little one-bedroom apartment, like, where does she even fit all these people in there? Not to mention the horrible smell that's coming from her place. She claims she doesn't have cats.
The smell isn't coming from my place. We've already covered this. I don't have parties and people over, although I will admit to turning the music up because it's better than hearing the banging on his walls at 2 a.m.
And what would that banging be coming from?
Oh, so you're changing your story, it's not 2 a.m.?
2
Or
a.m.,
4
4 a.m., 3 a.m. It's all hours of the night. I don't get any sleep.
And why, do you have any explanation for the loudness coming from your apartment?
I have no idea what she's talking about.
Well, maybe the girls that I see going in and out at all hours of the morning could provide some explanation to that, if you'd like to elaborate.
Friends.
Friends with benefits, maybe.
She's making some accusations over there, she has nothing to back up.
In my experience, friends don't make the noises that I hear at that time of morning.
Alright, so what I'm hearing is that you want her to leave because of the smell that could or could not be coming from her apartment, as well as the music that you're hearing all night. And she doesn't like the noises that you make all night, as well as the fact that she says that you're very mean to her girlfriend right now.
Well, technically, her girlfriend shouldn't even be living there, since she's not on the lease. So the girlfriend goes, or both of them go.
Listen, if I had a guy living with me, he'd be perfectly okay with it. He's only having a problem because he's an extremely unreasonable person with extremely conservative views, and he has no open-mindedness whatsoever.
The problem isn't the gender of the person living there, the problem is this person isn't even on the lease.
He already
Now
is.
she's complaining, now she's interrupting me.
Please stop interrupting. It's his turn to speak at the moment.
You should lie.
She's complaining about the rent going up. Well, now there's 2 people living there. So she should have no problem paying that rent.
Anything to say about that?
The apartment didn't get any bigger. He didn't fix any of the issues that I have with it. There's no reason that the rent should go up just because another person is occasionally staying there.
Occasionally, she's there every night. She lives there. What other issues does she have with the apartment?
Maybe the paper-thin walls will let me hear the noises at 2 and 3 in the morning. Maybe the horrible ventilation system that makes me smell that terrible smell coming from the other neighbor. Maybe he should just move my apartment altogether because really both of my neighbors are just horrible.
Oh, so just click my heels and move your apartment?
Maybe he should move to one of the downstairs apartments.
I'm not moving in my own building.
I think the solution to this would be us not living next door together. I mean, or
You're right.
to each other.
Go somewhere else.
I just signed another year lease, and that was a month ago. I've got 11 months
I'll let you
left.
out of it.
I don't want out of it.
Alright, are there any other apartments in this building available right
No.
now? Are there any other tenants that are in a very similar apartment as hers?
Are you suggesting I move someone else because of her unreasonableness?
I'm just looking at all possible options. So is there another tenant that has a very similar apartment to hers?
There are similar apartments to hers.
Would any of these tenants be willing to switch apartments?
So let me be clear for the people watching. You want me to ask somebody who's living somewhere causing no problems to move because of this thorn in my side?
I'd like to ask that you keep the disrespectful language to a minimum.
A year ago, I definitely wasn't a thorn in his side.
Care to elaborate on why you weren't a thorn in his side a year ago?
We got along much better a year ago.
And what changed? When did this relationship start to fail? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, you know, when I first moved in, we went on a couple of dates and it didn't go very far. It lasted for about a year. And after that, we were fine being friends until I started seeing this girl. And then he got all bent out of shape.
Is this true?
You're right. I did get mad when you started seeing her because she started living at the apartment.
Did she start living there right off the bat?
No, what kind of person do you think I am?
Well, if we go back, she said that she's been with this girl for a month now, and she's living there.
Right.
So that's not very long in the grand scheme of things.
She's not living here. I didn't say I've been with her for a month.
Yes, she did.
She's not even living there. She's there for, yeah, maybe a couple days at a time. She has her own apartment though.
Fantastic. We found a solution. Move in with her.
I'm not moving in with her. We've already covered this whole moving in together thing.
Well, she
It's
already lives
Tuesday.
with you.
She doesn't live with me. She stays there for maybe a couple days here or there.
How
She
many
lives an hour away.
How many nights a week would you say that she's in the apartment?
I mean, it depends on the week.
On average, how?
Maybe like 3-ish. Although the week that I had the cat, she wasn't there at all. She's extremely allergic to cats.
All right. And you're upset with her being there for 3 nights a week?
She's not there 3 nights a week. She's there every night.
She is not there every night.
Is there a reason you believe that she's there every single night?
Her car is in the parking lot every night, and I see her going in and out of the apartment every single night. Her clothes are in the laundry that we all share, and it's just too much. She's not even on the lease.
Can I ask you how you know which clothes are hers?
Well, I see the clothes that she's wearing all the time because she lives next door, and the clothes that are mixed in with hers when I move hers out of the washer, mine in there, are not her clothes. So I'm assuming that they're her girlfriend's clothes. Now she's claiming that her girlfriend has her own place. Why is she doing laundry at yours?
I do wash some of my girlfriend's clothes. However, I don't think all the clothes that he's seeing are my girlfriend's clothes. Like I said.
Oh, so she has other girlfriends.
Like I said, my sister is going through some really hard times. So sometimes I pick up the laundry for her and her daughters and help with that too. So I'm sure there's a lot of other girl clothes in my laundry that aren't mine. And I don't really appreciate him insinuating that I sleep around.
That wasn't.
I did not insinuate. She said that there was other clothes in there, not
Or
hers
that I
or
have
girlfriend's.
multiple girlfriends. I may not be as overly conservative as him, but I'm not that kind of person. That doesn't make sense.
As
You
the
said I have
building owner, is
multiple
it your
girlfriends.
job to know all of her clothes? Do you
I'm
know
sorry,
all
I
of
missed
the
the
clothes?
first part of that sentence. Could you rephrase it?
As the building owner, do you know all of the clothes that she has So you know,
No, I don't have a checklist of clothes that she owns. However, I do, as I said before, notice what she wears, and I know that a lot of what is in the washer with her clothes are not hers.
alright. Well, so, as far as reasons to leave, we've got the smell, which, have we agreed that it's not
No,
necessarily?
we haven't agreed.
It's not coming from my apartment. You can go search it yourself. Maybe
In your
that's
multiple
why
searches,
he
have you
knows
ever found the source of the
about
smell?
my clothes.
I'm not in there for very long because when she leaves, she's not gone for long, so I have to be real quick in my search.
Right, just long enough to go through all my clothes.
But you agree that you haven't found the source of the smell in her apartment?
Not yet. Search continues.
It's a 1-bedroom apartment. If he hasn't found it yet, and the multiple times that he's been in there alone without me being there, I'm sure that he would have found the smell if it existed.
Would you allow him to come in while you're there and try to find the source of the smell?
Well, clearly he's already been there when I'm not, so at least if I'm there, I can keep an eye on what he's going through.
Would you agree to something like that?
Yes.
And if the smell is not from her apartment, then you can cross that off with reasons for her leaving.
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, so we've gotten that off the list. As far as the noise in the mornings, are there any ways for us to resolve that issue?
Yeah, he can stop being so noisy at unreasonable hours of the night.
She can stop hosting parties all the time, every weekend.
I don't know why he's talking about parties. I don't host parties.
Yes, she
I have a
does.
1-bedroom apartment. Where am I gonna get
Cat
all those
parties.
people? Besides, I don't need to pay for everyone else's alcohol. That's what bars are for.
Alright, would you both agree to possibly a limit on the number of people that can be in the apartment at a certain time? Would that be a
No.
possible solution to the problem?
Whose apartment?
My
Well,
apartment.
it's your building, so I would assume that the ruling would go towards the entire building.
Except mine, right?
See, so he wants to be able to host all kinds of parties right next door to me, but wants to limit the people that I have in my apartment? That doesn't sound very fair.
So what do you suggest that you can do about the noise complaints in the parties?
She can have these parties at her friend's house.
My friend doesn't have a house. She has a studio apartment, and she's not my friend. So I'd appreciate it if he would stop. If he would just keep his conservative views to himself.
I'm not talking about just that friend. All the other friends that she has over for these parties.
I don't really have friends.
Well, I can't imagine why.
Oh, so now you're backtracking. First you're saying all these friends, and then you're saying you can agree that I don't have friends.
I didn't agree.
Maybe you should make up your mind.
I did not agree with that
I
statement.
guarantee you I don't have parties. And not only do I not have
She's
friends
making a lot
to
of
invite to
guarantees
the
that she
parties,
can't back up.
It's her turn
yeah,
to speak right now.
I don't have friends to invite to parties. I don't want to pay for everyone's alcohol, especially when I'm paying for this extremely outrageous rent now. And furthermore, I don't need a bunch of people in my apartment. I like to spend time with one person.
Just the one friend.
She's not a friend.
Alright, and if everything she's saying is true, then is there any other way that all of this noise could be?
Is there any way that she can back these facts up, or is it just over and it's mine at this point?
Well, does the building have security as far as security cameras?
Yeah, there's cameras and there's a doorman.
There's also a lot of blind spots.
As far as the cameras go, do the cameras cover the hallways of the building?
Yes.
So would you be able to look at the footage of those security cameras and confirm her having or not having?
Yes, I
parties?
have looked at them. She has a massive amount of people coming over every
Yes.
weekend for parties.
And what would you consider massive? How many people exactly are
40 people.
in a one-bedroom apartment?
Yes.
All right, and have you seen it on the security tapes?
We've been sitting here for half an hour now, and this is the first time that he's mentioned any security tapes. Now, if you really saw this on the security tapes, don't you think that he would have mentioned it right off the bat, like, hey, I have evidence that she has all these people over? But he doesn't really, which is why he didn't say anything until you mentioned it. These people don't come over to my apartment. They don't even exist.
Oh, it must be the building ghosts then.
There's nobody on those security cameras. I don't have parties.
All right, what about the doorman? Would you be able to talk to the doorman to see?
I talk to him every day. When he lets me in.
Well, could her statement be accurate that you?
Okay, I may have exaggerated the number.
40 people in a one-bedroom apartment? That's ridiculous.
It does seem a little bit hard to fit 40 people into a one-bedroom apartment.
It's possible.
I don't know what kind of parties he has, but you'd have to be awfully close to fit 40 people in a one-bedroom apartment.
There's a lot of closeness at my parties.
Right, which is what I'm talking about. And it's always females going into his room.
Is this true?
The people I have over are not the people we're here to talk about. Let's stay on
If
task.
it were guys coming into my room, he'd be perfectly okay with it.
Has he ever been invited to one of these parties that you've?
I don't host parties, but he has been over to my apartment several times.
And have you ever been invited to any of the parties that he throws in his apartment?
No, he used to always hang out at my apartment until all this started. And that's when he started throwing all those ridiculous parties with all these blonde, I shouldn't say, because it's not appropriate. But
So would a possible solution here be that if either of you do intend to throw a party, that you maybe confirm it with the other person or invite the other person to that party?
I don't feel as though that I should have to get permission from the tenants of my own building to do whatever I want.
I didn't necessarily say that you had to ask for permission, but maybe just a heads up that
I don't want to be
out of
invited
a common
to any of
courtesy.
his parties.
They're a good time.
Maybe for him.
But as like a common courtesy, would you guys be open to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they're not all staying till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
They can stay as long as they like.
I need to sleep. Some of us don't stay up partying all night or whatever you're doing.
Just hanging with friends.
Alright. So, as far as this agreement goes, we've agreed that we can at least give each other a heads up of a party.
Couple parties I don't have.
If there is a party going on that night, you guys can at least give each other the heads up to let each other know that there is
He
a
can
party.
give me a heads up when he has 40 girls coming over to his apartment.
And you're alright
Not
with
all
this
at
as
once.
well? So we're both okay with
If
that?
they're in your apartment
Yes.
all at once,
Alright.
maybe just not in your room all at once.
Alright, so as far as reasons to leave, are there any other reasons to leave that we need to discuss, or have we kind of covered that topic completely?
Well, if he doesn't still want me to leave, then we've covered that topic.
I guess she can stay.
Alright, So, would we like to go ahead and move on to rent?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. What is the rent currently for the entire building?
That I pay
No, for each tenant.
for each tenant.
Yeah, does every tenant have the same rent?
No. There are studio apartments, there's one bedroom apartments, and there's also two bedroom apartments.
Okay, so for the apartments, this one bedroom apartments, like hers, would you say that all of those rents are the same?
Generally, yes. Depends on some of the different amenities that they have.
Alright, and what is your rent currently right now? Do you think that your rent is higher than everybody else's, or the same as everybody else's? Where do you think your rent is compared to?
Well, I don't have enough knowledge to know what everyone else's rent is. All I know is that my rent was one thing up until she started hanging out with me. And when we signed the lease, we agreed on the same rent. And then a month later, he comes to me and decides to increase the rent. It's ridiculous.
Was there a reasoning behind the increased rent?
Yeah, property taxes went up.
We already signed the lease. Property taxes didn't go up. He has an issue with my lifestyle.
The property taxes went up.
So, as far as rent goes, you want to keep the rent the same.
Right. 1550.
You'd like to lower the rent back to what it was.
Right, 1,200.
Okay. So.
$350 extra a month is not property taxes. That's just holding a grudge.
No, it's a big building and it's very nice. Property taxes are expensive.
Nice. He can't even fix any of the problems with it.
There's
I can
nothing
hear
wrong with it.
everything. The walls are paper thin.
Alright, so with the extra, are there any other issues besides the walls being paper thin?
Yeah, the ventilation system is horrible. The carpet is peeling. Half the time the water doesn't even work.
Would you agree that any of these could be problems in any of the
My
apartments?
water works fine. Maybe she should pay her water bill.
I pay all my bills on time. As a matter of fact, I usually pay them early.
Well, if the water's getting shut off, it doesn't sound like it.
The water is for the whole building. Maybe he should just stop using so much of it when he has all these people over.
What do you think that we're doing?
I don't know what you're doing, but the noises speak for themselves.
I'm not turning my apartment into a slip and slide.
I don't know what you're doing.
Alright, so has any of the other tenants, rents been raised
All of
in
them.
this past month?
Yes.
Have they all been
The
raised by the
studios
same?
are now at 1,200. The one bedrooms are 1,550, and the two bedrooms are 1,850.
Funny, because my neighbor's apartment with the horrible smells didn't get raised.
Maybe they lied to you.
They didn't like me.
So you're saying that all of the apartments got raised, did they all get raised by the same amount?
Yes. $350.
That's not true.
And how many apartments would you say you have in the entire building?
In the entire building,
Yes.
about 70.
So your property taxes went up by, do a little bit of math here. $24,500
Yes.
extra
The
every
town-
month that you're.
That's ridiculous. Property taxes aren't even $24,000 to begin with, and they went up by $24,000.
The town just built a very big high school that they can't afford, and all of our property taxes went up.
Property taxes did not go up by that much, and I'm the only one who got my rent raised. I've spoken to my next door neighbor. I've got a couple friends in the apartment that I spoke to, and on top of that, my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend lives in the apartment, and his rent didn't get raised either. And I
What's
know
his
because she talked to him, and we had a whole big argument that she was talking to her ex-boyfriend. His name was Mike.
I talked to you.
He doesn't even know what goes on in his own building.
She wouldn't know anything about property taxes because she's a renter.
I know about property taxes.
Oh, you keep up
I
with the
work
current
in
property
real
taxes?
estate. I'm extremely familiar with the property taxes, and they did not go up by $24,000 a month.
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Maybe a year.
Or would it be possible with that extra 24,000 a month that you would be able to make improvements to the building?
Oh, I make improvements all the time.
Maybe to his own apartment.
Would you be able to possibly replace the carpeting in some of the apartments?
Yeah, some of the apartments have gotten new carpeting.
Not mine.
Would you be able to replace the carpeting in her apartment?
No.
And why is that?
I'm not going to put new carpet into her apartment for her cats and parties to ruin them.
I don't have cats. We already covered this, and I don't have parties. I go out to party. I don't have parties in my apartment. I don't need people messing up my stuff or stealing things or breaking things. My rent is already high enough. I don't need to pay damages too.
I'm not going to put carpet in there just to get rid of it.
And what makes you think that it would keep growing right off the bat?
Because of the way she keeps that place. It is filthy.
And see, she said that her apartment is incredibly neat and that she's in fact OCD about how neat her apartment is.
Her
It's
level of
impeccable.
clean does not meet my level of clean. It's disgusting.
It's impeccable. You never know when someone might stop by.
Especially on a bike. So, your level of clean isn't the same as her level of clean. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. She needs to shampoo those carpets or something. The stains were not there.
I shampoo them on a monthly basis. Most people don't even shampoo them in years. Aside from bleaching the entire apartment, I don't know how much more clean I can get.
She does not shampoo the carpets once a month. If she does, then she's spilling grape juice and red wine all over it monthly.
The white carpet in that apartment is what drew me to it in the first place. I wouldn't dare spill wine on that. I keep all my wine in the kitchen or I go out to the bars.
So these wine stains just got put there by the same ghosts that don't come to your apartment?
There's no stains. And maybe it's not the carpet that he's paying attention to when he goes creeping through my apartment while I'm not there.
So if he were to keep the rent, what would you be asking for?
If he were to keep the rent as it
Yes.
is, well, he better prove that all the other rents got raised too, because I know that they didn't, and I know that he's singling me out.
And why do you believe he's singling you out?
Because his conservative views, on top of his personal feelings, are upsetting him that I have a girlfriend.
And so you believe that he's singling you out with the extra rent,
Yes.
and your issues with the apartment are the carpet, the ventilation system, the water not always working, and the thin walls.
Right. It's ridiculous. It's not worth $1,550.
Well, then you're welcome to leave.
It was $1,200 when we signed the lease a month ago. Until I told him about this girlfriend and introduced him, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, I'm gonna charge you $350 more a month.
That was not the reason. I already told you why.
Well, then that's awfully concerning timing because we signed the lease a month ago and it was $1,200.
Things change.
We signed a lease for a year.
Do you have that document with you, at least?
Yeah.
There's nothing on that sheet of paper.
It was $1,200, and then a month after we signed the lease, I introduced him to my girlfriend, and he got all bent out of shape.
That lease has subsequently been amended by my lawyers. It's now $1,550.
I never signed another document.
Then she's welcome to leave.
But now we're back to stage one.
Well, we've discussed the terms of her leaving and
Right.
agreed that she
I'm not
need-
kicking her out at this point. She's welcome to leave on her own accord if she doesn't like it.
We signed a lease for $1,200. I've got 11 more months of
If
that
you look
lease
in
left.
the lower section there, it says that this is subject to change.
I don't think that's the case.
Alright, and subject to change, would you agree that she needs to agree to the new amount and possibly re-sign a new lease
Right.
for the new amount?
If she doesn't want to sign it, then she can move out.
Has she signed this new lease yet?
No.
Which is part of the reason why we're here.
Nobody else's rent got raised, and we signed a lease for $1,200. He can't just up it by another $350 because he's not happy with my lifestyle choices.
Everybody's rent got raised, I already told you that.
Everybody's rent did not get raised. My neighbor's rent didn't get raised, Mike's
Yes, it
rent
did.
didn't get raised, and my friend's rent didn't get raised.
We are talking about almost 30% raise in price here. So are you saying that property taxes went up by almost 30%?
Well, I haven't raised the rent in this building in years, so it was due.
Then he
Alright.
should have done it before we signed the lease. But he didn't, because it wasn't about property taxes or his expenses. It was about my lifestyle choices that he's not okay with.
I already told you what this was about. It was about the property taxes and the cost of living going up. It was just time to raise the rent. It hasn't happened in years.
The property taxes got raised 2 months ago by like maybe $5,000 a month, not $24,000 a month, and that was before we signed
Maybe
the
on
original
a
lease.
single family home.
He should have. That was before we signed the lease. They got raised 2 months ago. He should have raised the rent before we signed the lease, but we already
You know
signed the
what?
lease for $1,200.
I'm not unreasonable. I'll lower it to $1,500.
$50 a month, that's still an extra $300 that I'm paying. I wanna pay $1,200, that's what I signed the lease for. And if in 11 months he wants to raise it, then he can raise it on the next lease.
Everybody else is paying $1,550. Now I'm willing to let you pay $1,500.
Everybody else is paying what they were paying a month ago. Mine is the only one that got raised in the last month.
That's not true. Everybody is paying these new rates.
So you're telling me that my friends and my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend and my neighbor are lying to me?
Yes,
Because none
maybe,
of theirs got changed.
maybe they don't want to talk about their personal finances with you. 'cause
They
that's
did talk
personal.
about it and none of them got changed.
Would there be any other reason or any other way to get you to lower the?
I did lower it, $1,500 now.
$50 a month.
Maybe you could afford that
That's
water
not
bill.
even
then.
a pair of shoes.
Alright, but what,
But if you go to the dollar store to buy shoes, maybe you could get some shoes.
Shoes from the dollar store. Now he wants me to buy shoes from the dollar store. He buys Louboutins and Hermes ties and he wants me to buy shoes from the dollar store. That's ridiculous.
Well, maybe you should have made smarter choices with your life and bought some investment properties.
Maybe he shouldn't raise the rent just because he's unhappy with my lifestyle choices and jealous.
would
Jealous
you,
of what? Your one-bedroom apartment and your nasty girlfriend?
She's not nasty. She's
and that was also very disrespectful. I'd like to ask you to not be disrespectful.
This is how he always is. He's always saying mean things, and usually to her face. It's almost to the point where she doesn't even want to come over anymore, which I know is what he
That would
wants,
be
but
amazing.
that's not fair. He has all his multiple girlfriends come over, and I can't have my one come
I don't
over.
have any girlfriends. I'm single.
You're right. They're not girlfriends. He just sleeps with them all.
That's also a little bit disrespectful. I'd like to ask you to tell me that as well.
It's just a fact.
It isn't a fact.
Now,
I don't
would
see the
you
whole thing.
agree to paying the higher rent if you were to replace the carpeting in your apartment?
No, I'm not paying $1,500 for a one-bedroom apartment.
I will never replace that carpet.
I
if she
signed a
doesn't pay
lease for
this.
$1,200.
Carpet isn't free.
I'll take the carpet as it is, but I'm paying $1,200 a month. That's what I signed that piece of paper for.
$1,500.
Now, even at the 1,500, carpet is very expensive, and brand new carpet would be quite expensive for
Then
him
I'll
to
keep the
afford.
carpet I have.
So you don't want him to fix anything, any issues with the apartment, you just wanted.
He's
want
not
the-
going to anyways, and I can fix them myself for less than $300 a month for the next 2
Great, so
months.
everything's gonna be rigged.
Great.
Duct tape, paper clips, twist ties.
That's not how you fix things. That's
Spackle.
probably how he fixes things, which is why everything's broken in the first place. But I can see with his lifestyle why he wouldn't have a lot of time to fix the apartments.
Now, I'm really getting sick of you talking about my lifestyle. You don't know anything about my lifestyle. You were in my life for a year. People change.
Yeah, you were much nicer a year ago.
You don't know me.
I know you well enough.
Alright, so there's nothing.
I'm gonna take that.
Yes. There's nothing that he can do besides lower the rent that would allow you to pay the new rent price.
I'll pay the new rent if he agrees to the real reason for it, which doesn't have anything to do with property taxes.
What reason is she alleging that this is for? I already told her I would lower it to $1,500. Property taxes went up. Things got more expensive in the last couple of years. What are her options? Her options at this point are to, one, pay the new rent, or go somewhere else. Those are the only two options that she has on the table. Those are the only two I'm offering, and I'm not going to budge.
I'll pay the new rent if he agrees to the real reason for it. It has nothing to do with property taxes. Property taxes got raised 2 months ago, a month before we even signed the lease.
Would you agree to the new rent price if he were to do something about the smell throughout the entire building? And
He's not going to because he thinks it's coming from my apartment, and it's not.
but if he were to fix the smell in the building, and he were to perhaps try to look into the issues with your water, would you agree to pay the additional?
Listen, all I want is for him to admit the real reason for this raise in the rent, which has nothing to do with property taxes. Because the other rents didn't get raised and property taxes increased a month before we signed the lease. He had plenty of time to change it before we signed it. But this has nothing to do with property taxes. And I'm not paying it if he doesn't at least admit to that.
I'm not admitting to something that would be discrimination.
He's discriminating.
I'm not discriminating. I've not discriminated against anybody. Property taxes went up. If I admit to that, then she's just going to sue me for discrimination. I'm not admitting to something that is not true.
He was perfectly nice to me until I introduced him to this girl. That's when all the problems began.
Well, I'd also like to tell you that anything said in this room is confidential, and she has no right to use anything said in this room in a legal courtroom.
I wasn't aware.
So why don't you just admit the real reason? You're not okay with my lifestyle and you're jealous.
There's nothing to be jealous of.
That's not what you thought a year ago.
So would you say your relationship a year ago was more than just you two being friendly towards each other?
Oh, we were very friendly with each other.
And what ended this relationship?
She wasn't that good. It was horrible.
That's not what I heard.
And
He's the only person in my experience that has had an issue. And a year ago, I don't think he really had an issue.
Oh, I did. We had multiple conversations about it. You just don't take criticism very well.
We didn't have any conversations about it.
Yes, we did.
And if this relationship lasted for almost a year, how long were these conversations going on before?
A couple of months, and then I decided, why be with somebody like that when I could have someone else?
So you were the one that ended the relationship.
Correct.
He's so full of it. It didn't end, and we didn't have any conversations about any of this. He didn't want to commit. We spent some time together for a while, and when I wanted to go further, he didn't want to. And so I told him that I was done playing games, and I left.
Why buy the cow when you're already getting milk?
And see, that's why it was never going to work out. But now he's jealous that I'm dating someone else.
So there's no other reason why it ended besides. I mean, I'm getting two very different stories here. You're saying that you ended the relationship because you were sick of the relationship, and you're saying that the relationship ended.
Well, and her
Because
crazy
he-
sister.
My sister's not crazy. She's going through a very rough time.
She creates her own rough time. She's psychotic. She's in and out of the mental institution.
She just lost her husband, and she's raising 3 children alone.
She's bipolar and schizophrenic.
He doesn't have the qualifications to make those diagnoses.
She's been arrested on the apartment property multiple times.
She hasn't
For
been
disorderly conduct.
arrested. She had people from the mental institution come pick her up and take her back. But she wasn't arrested. She's going through a rough time. And I
Police
tried to
showed
help
up,
her,
she was
and he
hauled
always had an
away,
issue with me helping her.
arrested, taken away in the
Can you please
hospital.
not interrupt?
ambulance.
She's speaking at this moment.
It's not just my sister. He doesn't get along with any of my family.
Did he get along with any of your family while you were seeing each other?
We didn't really spend a lot of time with my family.
And would you agree to that?
Oh, yes.
I introduced him once, brought him to dinner, and, you know, it was just a little awkward. They didn't really get along, so we stopped going over there.
And why would you say that they didn't get along?
I don't know, you know, we sat down to dinner and no one really talked. It was just awkward.
Alright, well, we've kind of gotten our viewpoints across about the whole relationship that happened a year ago. And I think we should get back on track here and get back to talking about the rent and the situation with the rent currently. So, do either one of you offered $1,500 instead of the $1,550. And you said you would pay the $1,500 if he admitted to the real reason that
Right.
it went up.
There is a real reason.
If he
There's
admitted to a reason other than
That he's
property taxes.
Unhappy with my lifestyle and doesn't approve of it and is jealous.
So, her
I
offer.
already said I don't agree with her lifestyle. It's against.
But that's
God.
the reason for the rent raise, and that's ridiculous.
Alright. So you're offering $1,500 and you're offering to pay that $1,500 if he gives you the real reason for why the rent was raised.
Sure.
Which, in your opinion, is not because of the property taxes.
It isn't. The property taxes got raised a month before we signed the lease.
And my accountant needed to look over the paperwork and figure out where the prices needed to be.
He could have said we were going to wait to sign the lease until he could finalize the provisions in the lease, but he didn't. He had to sign it for $1,200, and as soon as I introduced him to this girl, he decided to raise it.
It's not true.
It is true. He raised it the day after I introduced them.
Alright, so there is no other reason besides the property tax changes that would lead to an increased rent.
Correct.
And everyone in the apartment building is paying this increased price.
Yes,
That's a lie.
that is not a lie.
I've spoken to multiple people in this building and they're not paying an increased rent. He wants me to believe that all of these people are lying as opposed to just him. These people who have nothing to lose or gain by telling me. He's the only one with something to lose.
I have nothing to lose.
Then
Because I'm
just
making bank.
admit that it was just me and that was your reason for raising the rent.
It wasn't.
He's lying.
So the reason for raising the rent was not due to her new relationship.
Right.
That's a lie.
So do we have any other offers to put on the table before?
Yeah, I'll pay it when he agrees to the real reasons.
But there's nothing else that you can do as far as
No.
or doing something such as changing a few things within the building, such as dealing with the smell in the building or changing the carpet,
I want him to admit to the
getting
real
the
issue.
water work.
We're not going to agree. She can just leave.
And now we're back to blue. He just needs to admit that he's unhappy with my lifestyle and jealous.
Well, he has said that he's unhappy with
But
it.
that's the reason for the rent raise.
It's not.
It is.
And there's no other, and you're also, she also claims that you are jealous of her new lifestyle.
That's preposterous.
And why is that?
Because there's nothing to be jealous about.
Well, we are just about out of time here for this session, so I'd like to assign you guys a little bit of homework before we get on to our next session. These are the things we've agreed on. We've agreed on you being able to go into her apartment and searching for the source of the smell, as
So I can
well
continue
as,
that. Okay.
as well as,
While I'm there though,
while
he
she's
needs to
there,
stop looking for my
Yes.
stuff while I'm at home.
as well as giving each other a heads up for any parties or things like that. So before our next session, I'd like you to get the first one done, if you guys can schedule a time that works for both of you to allow him to try to find the source of the smell, and if it's not found in your apartment, then we can cross off the reasons to leave for our next session. If it is found in the apartment, then we can discuss that during our next session.
Oh, I'll find it.
It's not in my apartment, so he won't.
So are we able to agree on that we can get that done before the next session, and you guys can think on your own about different ways we can solve this rent problem before our next session as well?
Yes.
Thank you both very much for coming today, and I will see you guys, we will set up an appointment for our next session.
Sounds good.
I'm still not paying for this.
Your conflict. Oh, I'm so